Hello everyone and welcome back to the Et8 Challengers Cup here for round 3 at the Imola circuit in Italy. Obviously we're now at the halfway point of the season. We've had 2 rounds already at Bahrain and Australia, and obviously, as I've said before, we're here at Imola. Personally, one of my favourite circuits. Doesn't really provide much overtaking, which could be an issue, hence why qualifying is so key here. So we might see many drivers leaning towards setups better in qualifying than they are in the race. And as it stands, Pookie is leading the championship. We'll have a little look now. There we are, the graphic. Finally, we've got one. And yeah, so Pookie lead the championship with Dylan Warren in second. Both of Veloce guys first and second. Obviously, Pookie's not here today, nor is Dylan. I think Dylan's ill, and Pookie, I'm not sure why he's not here. And Jan Halliday, after getting his first win in Australia, now sips himself into third position. So, if he can score third or higher, he will take. Well, he could take lead of the championship. Also, we've got Ben Sabakonyi, been a bit of an outlier, not really been involved in too much, but he's sitting fourth in the standings. We've got Ismail Fassi, not had the best start to the season at all, sitting down in fifth. I would have expected him to be a lot higher than he is on the board. Obviously, Floris Fires getting his third place in Australia after having 9 seconds of penalty, still getting the third position. He slots himself in sixth, but he's not racing tonight either. Theo McKee is in seventh with 14 points. Will Lewis, eighth with 12 points. Tamash Gal is ninth with 8 points. And then finally, Chanakinshi matches Tamash with 8 points, and he's sitting in 10th. Before we go on to the main screen, I'll have a little look at the top 10 of Australia. So, great race. Many penalties came into play. And obviously, we had 3 of the TF10 guys in the top 10, that being Floris third, and then obviously Sven and Richard 8th and 9th. Cameron Dowd puts one of the only RHD cars into the top 10. We've also got Dylan Warren, who was looking for a podium, but unfortunately had an issue with someone, I think, and he finished 7th, if I remember correctly, of course. And obviously, Jan Halliday, great, superb race, won with ease. No one troubled him at all, and also went on as well to get third in the Real Challengers F1 Esports. So great performance from him the whole week. And obviously, Pookie's sitting in second, but Pookie and Flores not here, so many of the drivers now can have a chance to get themselves on the podium. And what we'll do is we'll go back to the start screen because we aren't actually in the lobby yet. And we're just going to have a little look quickly through, when it loads, through the grid for tonight. So there might be a few changes here and there. There we go. So we'll have a look. So Ishmael Fassi and Noel Carmen are in the Mercedes. We've got Pesso, Jan Hardy and Taz in the Ferraris. Ruben Pedreño and Andres Lopez in the Red Bulls. We've got Yannick Schmidt and Ben Marples. Ben making his first appearance here in the McLaren. Alpine, we've got Ben Sabakonyi and Cameron Dowds. Haas, we've got Jenna Kinshi and Mike Klein. Aston Martin, we got Nelson Alves and Richard Sprugis. AlphaTauri, we got Richard Jacobs and Andre 31. Not sure who that is, but it's someone. Alfa Romeo, we've got Leo Lund and Soleil, also known as Ionut Tanais. Williams, we've got Duncan Hoffler making his first appearance here, and Tamash Gal, and then I believe Zelenkiewicz. I'm not sure if he's got a seat or not, but he's on the reserves list. So we'll have to see what happens, and I believe we're getting ready to go very shortly. And what we'll do, while we get ready to go, we'll have a little look at the Imola track. So, great track. One of my favourites, has been home to many Grand Prix. Unfortunately, was the Grand Prix where Ayrton Senna and Roland Ratzenberger lost their lives. But apart from that, it's a great circuit. And there's always, well, action in qualifying. In the race, not so much. But as we look through the track, obviously you've got turn 1, Variante Bassa, a bit of a kink to the right, realistically, not much of a corner. Then you've got 2, 3, and 4, which is a Villeneuve chicane. The Tamburello chicane. Then you've got 5 and 6, which is the Tamburello chicane. Then you go down in a little bit of a straight. In towards Tosa, then you go through turn 8, a bit of a kick to the right before you come into Piratello, the long chuck into turn 9, just a bit of a, you brake a bit, throw the car in, chuck it down to 5th or 6th, back on the page, you head through turn 10, then you come to Aqua Minerale, which is 11, 12, 13. Very difficult corner to get right. Many people make mistakes. Some people can spin on the exit as you go up the hill, some people might take too much curb and spin, some people might also go over the curb completely and bounce on the little yellow curbs on the exit. Then obviously you go down another little bit of straight as you're heading towards Variante Alta, the corner where Charles Leclerc unfortunately binned it in 2022. That's another corner you've got to try and get right. You've got to be careful with the curb. You've got to take some curb. But if you take too much of a risk, you're just going to throw the car around. Then you come down a bit more of a straight. You go through turn 16, another kink to the right. Before then you get to the final 2 corners, which is Ravazza 1 and 2, as many people call them, 17 and 18. So, pretty decent track, very old school, very technical as well. Reminds me a lot of Hungary and Zandvoort, that type of style of track. And yeah, let us know in the chat, what do you think of the track? Because I absolutely love it. I'm not sure what other people think of it though. I've heard many bad comments about it. Because then again, I suppose it's not. You don't really get much racing here. It's more just follow people in a single line and try and get a move into turn one, into turn two if you can. I'm just gonna have a look in the chat in a second to see if anyone's in there. But yeah, welcome everyone. We're gonna get started very soon. And if you don't know the way the format works, obviously we have a full qualifying session, so that's an 18-minute Q1. The bottom 5 get knocked out, so that's 16th to 20th. Then we have a 15-minute Q2, which is 11th to 15th knocked out. And then finally we have a 12-minute top 10 shootout. So everyone then in the top 10 have a chance to, well, obviously, qualify first on pole. And I believe we're getting ready to start and get ready into lobby, which we are. And then obviously we have a 32-lap race, 50%. That's normal. The same procedure as you would do for challengers for F1 Esports. We've got many people on the grid who haven't made many appearances yet this season. We've got Neonut, and that's a Solays. Obviously, we've got Leo Lund. He's making his first appearance. I think Richard Sprog is making his first. Ben Marples, Taz. So many drivers coming into here to see. Hopefully, we can see what they are capable of doing in the sessions. Obviously, it's pretty clear that the drivers that are typically slower will be out in Q1. So I don't think we'll expect to see many of the top level drivers or many of the actual challengers drivers themselves be out in Q1. I think they're normally going to be looking for a Q2, Q3. Well, Q2 elimination if they do get eliminated, of course. But there we are. So obviously, got it clarified to me earlier. It is a dry race and a dry qualifying. That's how it works in Challengers. So we don't need to worry about any wet conditions whatsoever. It's going to get everything set up on the board, on the screen. There we are. We'll have to see who decides to go out onto track first. But yeah, pretty competitive grid. Got drivers of many different levels. We've got some drivers from the top level of PSG. Well, I'll use PSG as an example. It's the best one for me to use. We've got drivers from the top levels of PSGL F1, F2, that being Duncan and I think Tamash and Jan have made appearances. And you got some drivers like Rishan and Andres, I think from F3. And we've got a few drivers further down. I think Richard's is from F5. I think Leo's from F5. So is I think a Solace, but also we've had another appearance. I didn't notice this one. Ivan Santamaria. Didn't see him join the lobby, but he's in the Ferrari. Unless, hang on, right? Let me know in the chat. Is Ivan Santamaria? Is he Taz or not? Just to clarify. But we've got people on track. Ishmael Fassi being the first to head out onto the track to begin the first session, first lap of qualifying. Obviously, as we can see, is on the intermediate tyres. Many drivers choose to do that. Well, because, yeah. Oh, hang on. There we go. It's wrong screen. Wrong screen. Sorry, everybody. We should be on the correct one now when it loads. If it chooses to, there we are. Sorry about that. Someone could have reminded me in the chat. But yeah, we are. Yeah, we are. I was looking at because I'm looking at the chat on my phone. I'm thinking, hang on, why is it showing me still the track map? But there we are. All sorted, done and dusted. Getting ready to go yet again, and I'm gonna quickly just sort this out. Oh, and my phone charger is broke. Great. There we go. So, I believe that means that is Taz, I presume. But Ishmael Fassi now coming through into the final corner. Obviously, many drivers on the intermediate tyres just to check everything is working fine. There's no point going out onto track on some softs and then you find out something's not working because then you've wasted yourself a set of tyres. And in the full qualifying format, one soft tyre means a lot more than it would in a short qualifying format. Because obviously you're going to take the tyres through to the next session, and obviously in a short qualifying session, you can risk going for a couple of laps on the same set. Around here you can't because you'll lose time, and realistically you just want to make, you just want to be outside that bottom 5. That's the main thing to do. And the issue that some people have as well is that they'll get a good lap in, or they'll get a banker, and then they can't improve. That's the issue. So some people, they'll set a really great banker, and then actually think, oh, I can't improve on my banker, and then they put themselves in a bit of a predicament then of trying to get through to the next session. But obviously Fassi's invalidated, so we'll move on to someone else. Yannick Schmidt, he's on some Inter tyres as well. I think the only ones that aren't on Inters are Jan, Leo, Ruben, Cameron, Bentz, Ionut, Duncan, and Tamash. Everyone else on a set of inters, getting out onto track, just, you know, getting a bit of a prep lap in, sorting everything out. And look in the chat, everyone, and put your prediction in. Will Ivan Santamaria, also known as Taz, will he get through Q1? Yes or no? I believe that's what the vote is. You know what? I'll put a vote in myself. I'm confident he will. So I'll put 10 on for yes, because I don't want to waste too many channel points. But yeah, get your votes in, everyone. See what you think, and we'll see who's got the correct prediction at the end. Smits is invalidated. Sprogis is on a lap now. I hope. Sorry as well. I might pronounce some of these names wrong, and I hate that. Nelson Alves sets fastest lap so far, an 18.641. But yeah, I tend to spell a lot of names wrong, and I hate it. Well, say names wrong, and I hate it. So sorry in advance. And also, let me know in the chat, is the sound fine? Because I'm having to mess around with everything quickly, get it all sorted. But it should be. And how about this? We've actually got into a session without the game crashing at the start. How amazing is that? But Sprogis now coming through in towards Aqua Minerale. Turns 11, 12 and 13. Oh, he's gone a little bit wide there. And Nitro, also known as Ben Marples, has gone second fastest with a 19.061. Obviously not representative at all because they're all on the intermediate tyres. Noel Carmen, he's on a lap time. He's coming through in towards Variante Alta now. Obviously, very difficult corner to get right. You want to bounce the curb. So, obviously, it depends on the setup as well. Some setups might allow you to bounce the curb a bit more than others. So, sometimes it does depend on the setups people use. And Rishan Jacobs goes fastest with an 18.532. And if it was wet conditions, then I'm sure he wouldn't mind being first, but it's not. So, yeah, it's not going to mean anything at the end of the session. Coleman goes into fourth with a 19.3. Mike Klein is on a lap now. He's coming through in towards Aqua Minerale now. He's invalidated, so that's what we've seen many times. Drivers invalidating, and Ben Marples has crashed on track, which I would not call ideal. So now that's Ben Marples out, I presume, of qualifying. Well, most probably out of qualifying. We'll have to see near the end of the session. And Ivan Santamaria, the person who's got the vote in the chat, if he will get through to Q1 or Q2. If he gets through to Q2 out of Q1, there we go. Let us know. Obviously, still this prediction's open. I'm not sure if it's still there because I can't see it. But yeah, obviously the first driver to go out onto some soft tyres. We've got Ionut, also known as the Soleils. He's just a bit further back. He's coming through in towards the end of coming now in towards Piratella, the middle of the middle sector. But we'll stay on board with Ivan to see if he can get a good lap time on the board. Obviously, no matter what lap time he sets, it will most likely be first. Because unless he can somehow be, 7 seconds off the pace or something like that, he should easily beat Richard Nelson and Noel. But now we come down in towards the final couple of corners. Ravazza 1, and then shortly you go into Ravazza 2 before the long straight down, in towards turn 1, but turn 1's more of a kink to the right. The real turn 1 I call it, is turn 2. That's down at the Tamburello chicane, where you also meet turn 3 and 4. But now, Ivan Santamaria beginning the first lap, the first soft tyre lap of the session. He's now hurdles down in towards turn 2, 3, 4. Now, obviously, you've got to be too careful here not to bounce the curb too much, but you want to be able to ride it a little bit just so you can get yourself a bit of rotation in the corner. Now he heads down to the end of sector 1. He comes in towards the Villeneuve chicane. Got to be very careful here as well. Obviously, to ride the curb on the exit, not invalidate. Does a perfect job now. In towards Toaster at turn 7. 24.341 for the first sector. He now heads out to Toaster, comes up in towards a little kink at the right for turn 8. Then he'll break down into 5th or 6th, chuck the car in towards turn on at Piratella, then carries it through. On the exit, you want to ride that curb, but be careful not to invalidate as you now head down in towards turn 10 before coming into Aqua Minerale. Very nice there, down to 4th, back up to 5th on the exit to give you a bit more traction as he rides the curb on the exit as he now heads down in towards Variante Alta, a 50.295 in the first and second sector combined. Hops the curb through there, could have took a bit more speed I think, but it is the first runs. So obviously people aren't going to be as quick and won't be taking as much risk on this bank lap as he now heads down in towards Ravazza 1 and 2, turn 17 and turn 18. Obviously hopping the curb there, riding the curb on the exit as he hops the curb again on the entry and the exit. As he now heads up towards the line, this should be a pretty decent banker for Ivan. He goes up to the line and he does a 15.552. So pretty decent banker, I think, there. And we've also got Ionut who's coming through and he's invalidated on his lap time. So he's going to have to head back into the pits. Or if he has got the... he can go again, actually, because he's got the ERS to do so. So we'll go on board with Ionut again as he will be beginning another lap As he now heads down in towards turn 1. We'll see what speed he does before he brakes. Obviously, you want to brake just before the 50-metre board. You get to about 330, I think. Yep, 331. Brakes down to 5th, and you want to throw it through. You can see you've got to take some curb just so you can get a bit of rotation through the corner. But you don't want to take too much, because if you do, you're just going to auto spin. As he now heads through in towards the Villeneuve chicane, rides a curb on the exit as he heads into toe. So yet again, a very difficult corner. It's a bit off camber. So you've got to be very careful going on the exit, and he rides a curb on the exit into 5th as he now heads down in towards Piratella. First of all, you go through turn 8, kick to the right, then you can brake it just after the 50-metre board, throw the car in, stays in 6th, well, shifts down to 6th, stays in 6th, he goes into 7th, then he'll brake down to about 4th as he goes through Acqua Minerale, then back up to 5th to give you some more traction as you now go down in towards the Variante Alta. And there we are, 50.377 in the middle sector and first combined. You want to ride the curb on the exit there to get, so you can open the wheel out a bit quicker. Then you hurdle down in towards the final 2 corners, turn 17 and 18 of Atsa. And then you ride the curb on the exit as you then hurdle towards the line. And we'll see what lap time Ionic can do. It'll be a 15.57. That just puts him a couple of hundredths behind the Mac of Ivan. Jan Herday's beginning an outlap now. Many cars getting out to begin their outlaps in this session. Obviously, once we've seen the first runs and the second runs possibly, we'll then be able to judge what we think the predicted cut-off time will be. I'm not sure around here. Possibly 15.1 might be a bit quicker than that. I'm not too sure. But we'll obviously, like I said before, we'll see that once everyone's got the runs in. And Jan obviously there being under a bit of pressure from one of the Williams behind. Obviously wanting to try and get through and get the job done. Jan's obviously holding him up a bit, so going a bit too slow, I think, for the preparation that the Williams would like. I think that might be Tamas Gal. But now, there we are. Mr. Williams attempts to pass up the inside. I've got a bit of racing going on at the start of qualifying here. So, but I hope you don't get too greedy, because we don't want people crashing out each other in qualifying 1. But as it stands, yet, Ben Marples will drop out of the session and will finish last. But Jan obviously warming up his tyres now, getting ready to begin his first lap of the session. Obviously took the win in Australia, took 3rd in the F1 Esports Challengers race at Australia. Obviously would like to match that heavily here in Imola. We'll have to see what he can do, because obviously this track compared to Australia, vast differences. So we'll have to see if this type of track is one of Jan's strong points. As you know, hurdles down into turn 1, 330, chucks on the brakes, throws the car into turn 2 and 3. Now coming through turn 4, very nice start there from Jan. We'll be able to see what he can do in the first sector as he goes in towards the Tamburello chicane. No, the Villeneuve chicane. I keep getting them mixed up, sorry. And what does he do? 24.219 purple in that first sector. I think a couple tenths on what Ivan could do. As you know, heads out of Tosa, heading up towards Piratella now. And that's Chanakinchi goes quickest with a 15.060. That is 5 tenths quicker than Ivan in Ionut. So obviously you can see the track getting a lot better. And I believe that was Mike Klein goes up to 4th with a 15.784. So he's got a lot of time to gain at the end of this session if he wants to get through to Q2. Jan Herdey, 49.984, goes purple in the middle sector. This is looking like a great banker for Jan. As he heads out of Variante Alta, now heads down in towards turn 16. Before we get to met with Ravazza 1 and 2. That's one of the Alfa Romeos they're getting out the way. And he now heads into Ravazza 1, then Ravazza 2. Got to be careful not to invalidate on the exit. Very nice job from Jan as he hurdles up towards the line. Where can Jan put his Ferrari for his first lap of the session? He will be quickest. It's a 14.985. And Tamas Gal actually goes quicker with a 14.706. That's 2 tenths quicker than what Jan could do. Leo Lund, one of the Alfa Romeos, will see what he can do as he's heading out of Acqua Minerale now, heading down in towards Variante Alta. That's Spencer Bacogni, goes into 2nd quickest, a 10th quicker than Jan Halliday. We've also got Yannick Schmidt and Andres Lopez, 5th and 6th. That's now Andre Monarch going up into 4th. And I think Leo Lund's let off his lap because he started weaving there, so he's going to be beginning and lap yet again. And there we are, Ruben Progenio, a 49.822. Great middle sector there from Ruben. We'll see what he can do. Obviously, didn't have the best race at all in Bahrain. He had an issue with another driver and lost it. And I don't think he attended race 2. I'm not quite sure. But he's now on a lap. He's coming to the line. Let's see what Ruben Progenio can do. Can he try and take provisional pole of Q1? Yes, he can. A 14.699. Then we've got Riyad Sprogis. He's on a lap. He's coming through now in towards the final corner. Where can he go? Goes up to 9th with a 15.186. Christian Jacobs has gone into 12th with a 15.2. Hoffland into 11th with a 15.2 as well. Look further down. Ivan's improved, though. by 2.5 tenths. He's now on a 15.3, so great improvement there. Nelson Alves, he's on a lap time. He's currently on an 18.6. Obviously, that was the lap time he set on his inters. He was up by 1.5 seconds in the middle sector. Let's see what he can do in the final sector. Can he try and get himself into the top 10 or even the top 5? He did a great job in qualifying and he's let off, so we'll be heading back into the pit lane. Leo Lund, he's now heading through out of Variant Health, having a bit of a slide coming through there now, so he's going to head now down in towards 17 and 18. Ishmael Fasse missed that one. He went fourth at a 14.977. Second, third, fourth, and fifth, thinking, well, we're safe to just retire the car, not bother going out for another run. And I believe Ruben Progenio will do the same. We'll see what can Leo Lund do as he comes up to the line. It'll be a 15.606. Puts him just into 15th. So at the moment, the bottom 5. Cameron Dowd, Noel Carmen, Ben Marples, Nelson Alves and Mike Klein. Obviously, Ben is out of the session. Nothing he can do. But Cameron, Noel, Nelson and Mike all have a chance now to get themselves out of this Q1 session. Obviously, the two Alfa Romeos, Ian and Leo, have got lots of work to do in their final runs because they're right on this cutoff. And I think the cutoff will be around a 15.1 or 15.2 possibly, just depending on what we can see with the improvement with the track evolution as well. As also the drivers just improving their lap times. We've also got Ian to Mike back out on laps already. They're on out laps coming through in towards the Villeneuve chicane. Obviously needing to really get some improvements. Ian on the brink of that bottom 5 and Mike in the bottom 5 so far in the Haas. Obviously Mike's first appearance here. I don't think we expect much from him. No offence, he's a bit, I think he's F5 or F6. So obviously compared to some of the drivers, not at that top level, but he's still a great driver, hence being given a chance to drive here tonight. Nelson Alves, also that's a surprise, obviously not getting himself out of Q1 so far. Ben, obviously, he made a mess. I think it was going out of Aqua Minerale. Noah Carmen, obviously not got a representable lap time, and Cameron Dowd is on a lap time actually, we missed that. He's coming through now out of Variante Alta, heading down into Ultravat, so we'll have to see what he can do. Obviously Cameron, 3 years too young to take part in challenges, but he definitely ought to see where he can be compared to the rest of the challenges grid for the future. As he now heads out of the final corner, and let's see where can Cameron Dowd go. This is a pretty decent lap time. It'll be a 14.8, puts in P3. Cameron Dowd's great lap there. So there that drops Leo Lund into the bottom 5, and he puts Leona right on the edge of that. So obviously these bottom guys have got a lot of work to do. I think anyone, maybe Yannick and maybe Yannick, Rihards and Andres are safe, but I think Duncan Down will have to definitely go again because the improvements will be coming through. We'll watch now as the Onut's on a lap. Oh, he's lost it down at turn. That's down at the exit of the Villeneuve chicane going in towards Tosap. So not sure what's happened there, but he's lost it somehow and gone right round. Mike Clones, he's invalidated. So we'll have a look. If the yellow flags disappear, we can see how long's left of the session, because that would be nice to know, so we can see if these guys can go again. I think they can, but I'm not quite sure because it doesn't decide to show. So they can go again. Ronald's retired from the session in the pit lane, so he thinks he's safe. Oh, he's gone up to a 14.9, so he's safe, yeah, in 7th. Chan's safe. Everyone else is on an out lap or a lap. Nelson Alves, he's on a lap now. He's got to improve by a lot. Now, Carmen's also on, well, getting ready to begin his lap. Obviously, he's sitting down in 20th on a 19.3. He's got a lot of work to do in this session. Obviously, his time was set on the intermediate tyres as he now begins to hurdle down towards turn 1. Looking further up, Ivan Santamaria, he's also weaving to begin his lap. Obviously, the prediction was, can he get himself out of Q1? And there was more people saying yes and no. So he's got to now keep up to that prediction and get himself out of Q1. Obviously, Rishan as well. Surprised to see him down in 13th. I thought at least he'd be in the top 10. But we'll go on board with Mike because he's on a lap. He's 80 thousandths up in the first sector. He's now coming through in towards Piratella. Obviously on a 15.7. Realistically wants to improve by at least 5 or 6 tenths to get himself clear out of this Q1 session. Obviously sitting down in 17th. So 2 positions into the drop zone. As heads up out of Variantia, out of Aqua Minerale in 4th, then shifts up to 5th as he now hurdles down in 7th towards Variante Alta. 2 tenths improvement, so at the moment looking for a 15.5, and he's gone off track. I think that might be it for Mike. We'll have to see if he does complete this lap though, as he did go off track. So realistically, he shouldn't set this time if he gets him through to Q2, but we'll see as he comes through into the final few corners. this should be a pretty decent lap. We'll see as he comes up towards the line. Where can Mike Klein go? Provisionally, it'll be a 15.794. He doesn't improve, and he's out of qualifying 1. Now we'll see. Can Eonut get himself out of the drop zone? Noel Carman is out of qualifying. He did a 15.5. That's not enough. Eonut's out of qualifying. He's pitted. Can Leo Lund get himself out? He's 16 thousandths down on his first run. He's got lots of improvements to make now in these final couple of sectors. Currently, he needs to get at least a 15.550. That's a half a tenth improvement, so that should be possible. Rishant with the 15.1 goes up to 10th position, but Leo now, he's the one we need to watch as he's the one who needs to get himself out of this session. If he can get through, he will knock Ivan Santamaria out, as Ivan only set a 15.2, but that's a lot of time for Leo to gain. So we'll have to see what he can do as he comes through now, out of Variante L. So that's Duncan Hoffland going up into 8th at a 14.995. Leo did go, it says on my screen, purple in that middle sector. Yannick Schmidt up to 3rd. Great lap there from Yannick with the 14.7. Now, Leo coming through into Ravazza. He's got to set this up perfectly. He's got to take a lot of risk, but not take too much. He now comes out to the final corner. Is this enough? I don't think it is. We'll see as he comes up to the line. This isn't enough. Yes, it is, though. It puts him into 12th. That knocks Ivan out of the qualifying 1. So now Andres obviously doesn't need to worry about getting through because he is through. We'll see what he can do as he comes up to the line. He goes into 5th fastest. What can Rihards do? He's down by 16 seconds, so he is in 15th and very close to being out. But the bottom 5, Ben Marples, Mike Klein, Eonut Tanez, Noel Carman and Ivan Santamaria, the bottom 5, which are out of this Q1 session. Obviously, Ivan, at one point I thought, oh, he's going to get himself through here because he had a good 3/10 gap to Noel Carman, but unfortunately, for him at least, Leo Lund managed to get a really good final sector in, and he put himself into the top 13. So whoever predicted yes, well, I did at least, we've lost a prediction. So we've lost our channel points there. So that's a big shame, and yep, the result is no. And yeah, so so Sergio Sobrino and 3 others get 5.6k credits because 82% yes. 82% said yes, 18% said no. So we had lots of faith in Ivan, but he couldn't give us the faith that we had in him. There we are, end of Q1. We'll look at the final classification in just a second. For this first qualifying session, obviously Ruben Progenio, yet again, top in the session with a 14.699. Tamas Gelt sits in 2nd with Yannick Schmidt. Great performance there. Sitting in 3rd. Then Cameron Dowds 4th, followed by Andres Lopez 5th. Ben Sabakonye, Ishmael Fassi, Jan Halliday, Andre Molnar and Duncan Hoffland take out the top 10. Then we have Nelson Alves, Chana Kinchi, Leo Lund, Rishan Jacobs and Richard Sprogis also through to Q2. That's the top 15. Then we have Ivan Santamaria, Noel Carman, Eonut Tanez, Mike Klein and Ben Marples, also known as Nitro Shooter, out of Q1. So that's not what they would have wanted, but there's much more to come in Q2. Obviously, we've got, yet again, the time's quite close. So that could be a close session as well near the end. But as we get ready now, just to get everyone in, well, everyone loaded in, so we can begin qualifying 2. As we aren't loading complete, we'll now have a look at the pit lane yet again. We can see all the drivers getting ready to head back out onto track. So obviously, the top 15. Now, well, everyone here should know, but if you don't know, then the bottom 5 are out. So at the moment, that will be Yannick, Richard, Jan, Leo, and Ruben. Obviously, that can change. That probably will change dramatically by the end of the session. But yeah, 11th to 15th will be out of the session. Then we've got many cars heading out onto track now. Some will be on used tyres. Some of the ones that might think, actually, we can't get through with used will take new tyres. So we'll have to see what different strategies people go. But we've got lots of people heading out. Already what? That's 8, 9, nearly 10. I think nearly everyone has gone out onto the track. We'll go on board with the Haas. That is Chana Kinchi, the first driver to go out. Obviously, finished 12th in the previous session. Obviously, would have expected him to be higher, but if he thought he was fine with his lap time, he wouldn't have bothered having to go out again. He's going to head through in towards Tosa with Chana Kinchi. Obviously, very nice to see Richard Sprogis get through. Leo Lund also getting through there. I think it was very expected to see. You know, when you see some of the drivers, you think, oh, yeah, they'll easily get through. I think, you know, when you get people like Chan, Tamash, Ishmael, Jan, all of those are going to get through easily, realistically. There's not much doubt in them getting out of Q1. But in Q2, you know, there's lots of drivers who were in that really quick mix in the first session. So we could see 1 or 2 surprises coming out of this one. But I'm on board with Chan, and we'll stay on board with him as he gets ready to begin his first lap of Q2. Obviously, I believe he'll be on some used tyres, but we'll be able to see that at the end. That's yeah, everyone gathering themselves up down at turn 16 now. Obviously, want to give themselves a bit of space so they can go for their push run. But now, Chanakinchi begins the first lap of Q2 as he heads down into turn 2, 3, and 4. Very nice, obviously hopping the curb a lot more than some drivers. So obviously you've got to set up that is allows him to do so as he rides the curb on the exit of turn 4. Now, in towards turns 5 and 6 at the Villeneuve chicane. Got to be very careful here. Shifts down to 5th, misses the apex a little bit, rides the curb on the exit. Perfect there from Chanakinchi. Puts himself purple set to 1 on. Need to have a look quickly at the lap data so we can see it. There we are as he now heads down in towards turn 8 before he heads in towards Piratella. Yet again, got to be very careful here. Shifts down to 5th. Then you want to ride the curb on the exit. You can see what he does there. Be careful not to invalidate. Chant does that perfectly. Now he heads into turn 10 before meeting Aqua Minerale, one of the most challenging corners on this circuit, possibly in the calendar. As it's an uphill corner, you've got to be very careful there when it comes to traction. And now he does a 50.167 in that middle sector from first combine. I think this might be a used run. I'm not quite sure yet. We'll see when it comes to line what time he sets. But he also goes purple in the middle sector because he's the only one to go through the middle sector at that point in time. He now heads down into Ravatsa 1 and 2. Obviously 17 and 18. Oh, you need to be careful not to go too wide there. As you can invalidate easy same as the exit of Ravatsa 2 turn 18. He comes up to the line. This will be a 15.205. Puts him into first. Tamash goes on a lap. He's coming up to the line. How can he go? He will go into third behind Duncan Hoffland, who went into second with a 15.3. These are all, I believe, old, used tyre runs. Ruben Progenio goes quickest to 15.021, about 3/10 off his previous time. Cameron Day's having a stonker of a session so far, putting himself into P2, ahead of Chan and Yan. Yan goes into fourth with a 15.2. Sabakonye up to line. Where can he go? He goes up into 8th with a 15.7, so he had a bit of a bad run there. Yannick Schmidt goes into 6th with a 15.4 on board with Andres Lopez. He's invalidated already before we got to turn 2. Nelson Alves now, he's on a lap time, he's coming down in towards turn 1 at the bottom 5 at the moment. He's Leo Lund, Richard Sprogis, Nelson Alves, Andres Lopez and Richard Jacobs. Obviously none of them setting lap times yet, and those lap times surely will start to fall now as he heads out of the Tamburello chicane in towards the Villeneuve chicane. Shifts down to 6th, then to 5th. You want to ride the curb on the exit, does it perfectly. Now he heads in towards turn 7. And obviously this first sector caused him many troubles to 24.360. But yeah, for many drivers, you can have lots of troubles in the first. Mainly because you've got to be careful with track limits, and you've got to be careful with chucking the car in, because the cars are literal boats in this game. So if you brake a little bit too late, or you lock up a slight bit and you go into the corner, throw the car and you're just going to understeer and go completely wide. And we see many drivers down at the Villeneuve chicane on the exit just go off the track completely into the gravel because there's that much understeer in the car. It is a 50.581, however, in the middle sector for Nelson Alves as he comes through. Very anti-alta as he now heads down in towards Ravatsa. Obviously not going to be much of a representative time to get himself out of Q2 because he is on the used tyres, and I think he must have made a mistake somewhere in that middle sector because of 55.5, that, or 50.5, sorry, that's, yeah, not very good, and he comes into the pit lane and doesn't set his lap. So obviously you knew that lap was obviously not that good. And now Richard Jacobs is coming through in towards Ravat, so we'll see what he can do. Obviously sitting in 11th at the moment. Obviously wants to, well, he will get himself out if he sets a lap. Andre Molnar goes second quickest with a 15.0. Where can Rishan go? He only goes to 9th. So Rishan's got a lot of work to do in the next part of this session, because 9th is not safe whatsoever, nor is it for Ishmael and Bents, but it is the first runs. Drivers might not risk as much as they want to get a better second and final run. Leo Lund, he's let off his lap. He's currently down in 15th. Yep, Andres, Nelson, Rihards and Leo not getting laps on the board. That's not ideal at all for this Q2 session, because they've realistically either got one lap at the end or they've got to get in and get 2 laps rushed. But the good thing about this track is quite short. So it's what? About 1 minute 50, well, we'll say 1 minute 20 on an out lap. Maybe a little bit higher than that, give or take a few seconds. Whereas a track like Spa, it's 1 minute and 50. You know, on an out lap, or even you know, or on an in lap, or even higher than that. So obviously a track around here, it's very easy just to get back into the pits, get a new set of tyres on and go back out very quickly and complete your out lap and in lap within 3 or 4 minutes. So yeah, that's the good thing about this track. You can afford to make those mistakes because you can go again. And Leo there sets a 26.2, but he's beginning a new lap now as he heads down in towards turn 1. Obviously Williams getting in the way barely as he goes in towards turn 2. Now, heading out that corner, out of the Tamburello chicane, heading down in towards the Villeneuve chicane. Hits about 298 as he chucks onto the brakes. Throws the car in. Very nice there. We'll see what he can do in the first section. Will be 24.181, 1.8 seconds quicker. So obviously sector one's obviously where he made that mistake. Then he comes out of Toast and rides a curb on the exit as he heads up in towards turn 8 and then in towards Piratella at turn 9. Going to brake just after the 50-metre board, throw the car and keeps it in 6th when he drives shift down to 5th. So Leo going for a bit of a different strategy to others. He now goes into turn 10, then Aqua Minerale. Obviously taking 4th, then shifting up to 5th instantly to get way better traction on the exit. He now hurdles down in towards towards Variante Alta. Should be a pretty decent lap time from Leo as he now heads through. Obviously, he's on used tyres now because he went for this is his 3rd lap, including his 8th lap originally. Into Ravazza. Pretty decent so far from Leo. Let's see where he can go though. When he heads up to the line, this should hopefully get himself out of the bottom 5 for now. It does, but only puts him into 8th, so that now knocks Ishmael Fassi into the drop zone, along with Ben Sabakonya and also Rishan on the cusp of that drop zone. Nelson Alves, he's now getting ready to begin a lap. Obviously, not setting a lap yet in this session. Would like to get himself through, of course. And I believe, yeah, I don't think anyone's safe. Yeah, no one's safe at this point. So I don't think even Ruben and Andre are, because we've got lots of improvements from the drivers coming through. We've got on board Nelson Alves, obviously, I think set a 15.1 or 15.2 in the first session, so realistically should be a couple of tenths ahead of that now if he's on some new tyres. The track's evolved a bit more. Actually looks a little bit warmer on track, I'm not quite sure though. That could just be a bit of a placebo effect. But we're heading out through in towards Villeneuve Chicane, hopping the curb a lot there, and he invalidates so on the exit at turn 5 and 6. And that's what I said before, it's very easy to invalidate and go off track there. And then Nelson has to prepare and run again. Andres Lopez, he's beginning a lap now. He's coming down in towards turn 1. We've got to hope he doesn't copy what Nelson did a few seconds ago. As he heads down into turn 2, 3, and 4. Ishmael Fassi goes fastest to the 14.597. There we are. That's the benefit of these new tyres. Chan Akinci goes up into second with a 14.626. Great improvement there for Chan. So that now puts Richard Jacobs into the drop zone, currently with a 15.5. And that's Taras Gal goes quicker to the 14.5, improved by a second on that previous lap. So the lap time is absolutely crumbling down in this session. I think that's Yannick Schwitt there going to a 15.4. No, it's not. It's Yannick Schwitt going to a 14.9, puts himself P4 provisionally. Now we go through with Andres Lopez still. We'll have to see what he can do. He's on newer tyres, I think, than some of the other drivers, so he should get a time in the 14s at least. He's heads through in towards the end of that middle sector, 49.8. Jan Halliday goes second fastest. Cameron Dowd into 5th fastest with a 14.7. Cameron doing stellar at the moment in this session, but Andres Lopez obviously 13th at the moment, needs to get himself out of this Q2 session realistically. Let's see what he can do as he comes through. Out of 17 into 18 now, up towards the line. What time will this be for Andres? Should be a 14. Could be a 14.7 maybe. It's a 14.687. Puts him into P5. So great lap there from Andres. Now that drops Leo London into the bottom 5. No, it drops Duncan Hoffland into the bottom 5. As that was one of the, I think it was Rihars yet, getting himself up into 10th with a 15.1. Duncan Hoffland's on a lap time. He's coming through into Tosa now. We'll see if he can improve. Richard Jacobs is also on a lap as well. He's coming through up towards the line to begin a lap. And Sabakonya, he's, I think, a little bit ahead of Duncan Hoffman, which he is. He's down by 3 seconds, though, so he's not on a lap time at all. And Duncan's down by 5. It says down by 5.3 seconds. Yes, he is, so that's Duncan not on a lap at all. Pedreño, he's on a lap now. He's coming through in towards the end of this middle sector. He's up by 4.3 tenths, looking to put a 14.6 on the board at the moment. Provisionally, but the top 3 all separated by less than a tenth. I think about 70 thousandths between Tamash and Ishmael. We'll have to see. Can Ruben join himself into that party of the 14.5s or even put himself into a 14.4? Chan Akinci thinks a 14.6 is enough for me. I can get through to Q3. So there we are. Chan cut-off should be around a 14.8 then, shouldn't it, realistically? And Ruben Pedreño goes quickest, goes to a 14.431 and tops the session at the moment. We'll see what Rishan can do. He's invalidated, however, so he could be out of this Q2 session at the moment. He needs a lot of work to do, though, in his final runs. Richard Sprogis has improved on his lap, but now he's heading back into pits as he has completed his lap. And he's now on the in-lap. We go through, there we are. So everyone heading back into the pits now to get ready to begin their final, well, should be their final runs of the session. Obviously, if one driver goes out now, messes up on their first run, they can go again. So, but there'd be no point doing that realistically. You want to get out a couple of minutes before, then go for a big push run and just, you know, hope not to make any mistakes, or at least any big mistakes. But Ruben, he's going to be pitting and retiring surely, same as Jan. Obviously, the top 5 at the moment, you've got Tamash, Ismail and Chan, who've retired from the session. The pit lane, obviously not needing to go out again. There's no reason why they should. So I think 0.6 should be safe. I think the I'll say my predicted drop zone time should be around a 14.8, possibly a 14.7. We'll have to see though what people can improve on in the final runs. We've obviously got different people with different skill ranges here, so obviously the times can be vastly different between the grid, but so far it's been very close in this session. And as just a reminder, the bottom 5, Nelson Alves, Richard Jacobs, Bence, Sabakonyi, Leo Lund and Duncan Hoffland. Bence is now beginning an outlap, obviously in 13th, and he's getting himself out at the bottom 5, currently sitting 4th in the championship. Would be nice for him to get himself onto the top of it, because I think he's only around, I think, 15 points behind, so depending on where Jan finishes, could be a possibility for Bence to get himself onto the top of that top set, because obviously we've not got Isfan, and we haven't got Dylan Warren. Dylan was ill, and Isfan, I'm not quite sure why he's not here, but he's not. As you can see, he's not on track or in the pits. Head through in towards Variante Alta. Bence looking to get himself into the top 10 will be, I think, realistically, Bence should be looking for a top 5. So he should be looking for a 14.6, maybe a 14.5 if he can do so. There we are, everyone on 8 laps, apart from Ruben and Leo. Ruben will most likely retire. Jan, however, thinks his time is not safe. So have Ishmael and Chan done a bit of a blunder here? Have they gone too, have they gone for too much of a risk and retired? And Jan, no, that's not enough for me. He wants to improve. But Sabakonyi comes through in towards turns 2, 3 and 4. Obviously needs to get himself into that top 10. Realistically wants to improve by nearly a second to get through. He now comes to the end of his first set to 29,000, staying on his previous time. And remember, these are the should be the final runs of the session. So whatever run you do now, it's probably, it is your run and your session over. So you've got to make sure you can make the most of it and get the best that time you can. We'll see what Bence though can extract in the rest of this session. Obviously, wanting to do a great time in the middle sector. Obviously, that's where you can gain a lot of time. What is he done in the middle sector? 49.7. That should be... Actually, I think that's about a 10th quicker than what Ruben did. I'm not sure, though. So we'll stick on board for Bence, though. This should be decent that time as long as he can get to the line without making mistakes and without invalidating. As he heads down into Ravazza and Aston Martin ahead. Shouldn't be in the way. No, it's not in the way at all. So Bence has got clear track ahead of him to set his lap time. And it will be a 14. We'll say 14.5. It's a 14.5. Puts him into P4. We've got Leo Lund. He's now on a lap time. He's coming up towards on a 15. Oh no, he's going to start a lap. Hoffland, he's on a lap now. He's coming through in towards Villeneuve chicane. We'll see what he can do. Obviously, down in the drop zone at the moment, would not like to be down there at all. He's a 10.5 up in the first sector, so his middle sector has got a lot of time to gain. Ruben has crossed the line without setting a lap, and he's going to finish. No, sorry, he didn't go at the pits, and he's going to go. And top of the session for now. See, Jan's also on a lap, so we'll see what Jan can do as he's coming up to the line now. Where does Jan go? It's up by 76 thousandths in the middle sector, and Jan goes up to top with a 14.382. Now, Nelson Alves, he's on a lap time. He's coming up towards the line. I think that's one of the, there we are, one of the avatars. That's Rishan going up tonight. That's not going to be safe at all. Nelson Alves goes into 7th. So Rishan could be at risk of being at the session. We'll see what Yannick Schmidt can do. Can he get himself into Q3? Yes, he can with a 6th place. Cameron Davies is out the session as well. He's retired. So Rishan in the drop zone. Rishan is out of qualifying. Molnar has gone very well. Can he try and improve and get himself out of Q2? That'll be a great luck time if he can. And does he go through? No, he doesn't. He goes up to, he finishes 12th. We'll see. Can Rihard Sprogis get himself out of Q2? And Duncan Hoffman doesn't. Duncan finishes 11th at a 14.7. That's a big surprise to me. And Rihard Sprogis only goes 13th. Can Leo Lund get himself out of Q2? Let's see as he comes through the final corner. It's going to be a 14.729 at least for Leo, and he goes up to line, and he doesn't. He finishes 14th. So the bottom 5 is Andre Molnar, Leo Lund, Richard Sprogis, Richard Jacobs, and the biggest surprise of them all, Duncan Hoffland out in Q2. The top 10, Cameron Day's actually barely making it by a few thousandths of a second. I thought Cameron would be out. because he retired. So, yeah, the top 10. Cameron, Andres, Nelson, Chan, Yannick, Ishmael, Bent, Tamash, Ruben, and then the session topper, Jan Halliday, with a 14.382. Great session there, and very close to the end. So, Q3 is going to be great to watch, I think, if this is anything to look by. I wouldn't say a surprise, but Andres Lopez, great to get himself through to Q3. So is Cameron Dowds as well, doing a great job in Q2. But yeah, big shame for Leoland. Big shame also for Rishan, who's in 12th, and also Duncan just a few thousandths out. And there we are. So the bottom 5, who is out of qualifying 2 and will not be progressing to qualifying 3. Andrei Molnar, 6/10 off, so he didn't have much of an improvement at all. Then we have Leoland in 14th, Richard Sprugis 13th, Rishan Jacobs in 12th, and then Duncan Hoffland, the second Dutchman to be out of Q2, in 11th. Then we have Cameron Days, Andres Lopez, Nelson Alves, Chana Kinshi, Yannick Schmidt, Ismail Fassi, Bent Sabakonyi, Tamash Gal, Ruben Pedreño, and Jan Halliday, all going through to the Q3, the 12-minute top 10 shootout for qualifying. Obviously, wherever you qualify in the top 10 in the next session is where you start the Grand Prix. And obviously, as I said before, because of the nature of the track and how tight the track is, qualifying matters a hell of a lot, in my opinion. And I think if you qualify, as long as you qualify in a good position and you don't make mistakes, you'll most likely finish around that position, maybe higher. Or lower, of course. But we get ready to begin Q3. Let us know in the chat, who do you think will take pole in this session? I'm going to go with Jan Halliday, but let us know who you think if you've got a different opinion, of course, because there's another 9 drivers who could take pole, and I'll be very curious to find out who you think. Looking in the chat, there's not much going on. There's a bit of Spanish chat going on, but I don't speak Spanish, so yeah, I don't really know what Ta Adar Choque no Ultimo Citor means. Presume something to do with is that about an ultimate sector? Maybe, is that right? Oh, it's Spanish Portuguese. Oh, sorry, I thought it. Well, I always thought Portuguese and Spanish was the same, so I'm sorry if I offended anyone by saying that. But yeah, that's something I learnt today. How can you be an FDR and not know Spanish? Because no one speaks Spanish in there. Mainly because I don't know how to speak Spanish. Choking in the last... so I said so it was right. It was something about a sector. So, there we go. I know a bit of it. And there we are. Chana Kinshi, he's beginning an outlap now. I see 11 minutes to go in the session, so you can get at least 2 runs in. And maybe 3 if you want to go out for a double push run. Obviously, I can't really see why you'd do that, and that doesn't really seem like the meta. Thank you, Rafa Martins. Very appreciated, mate. I hope to see you in the chat still throughout the race as well. As now we watch Chana Kinshi heading down in towards Variante Alto. Going to be the first one to set a lap time in Q3. Was the first to set a lap time in Q2 as well. So I'm going to get the lap data up on the board quickly. There we go, and the telemetry, of course. Seems to always have that on there so we can see what the drivers are up to on track. As we now head out of turn 18 with Chana Kinshi, obviously wanting to get a great lap time. Obviously one of the ones that should be looking to get a pole position or at least be on the first 2 rows. As he now heads down into turn 1. Many drivers here will be on, well, I believe will be on used tyres in this session. Because they'll normally have only, well, depending where you qualified in Q2 and 1, you're either going to be on brand new sets because you only need to do 1 or 2 runs in each session, or you'll be on used because you needed to do more than 1 or 2 runs in each session. Obviously, many drivers are doing 3 or 4, well, doing 3, maybe 4 runs in Q1. Some drivers are doing 2 or 3 in Q2. But some drivers, such as Ruben, only did 1 run in Q1, well, 2 runs in Q1 and 1 run in Q2, so he should have more tyres than some of the others. But we now head through in towards Aqua Minerale shortly with Chana Kinshi. We'll have to see what he can do in the middle sector. Currently a great lap time from Chan, keeping it very clean. Going a little bit squirmy though, coming out of Aqua Minerale, but it doesn't harm him too much. He does a 49.850 in that middle sector and first combined. He now heads out of Variante Alto, riding the curb on the X as he heads down in towards 16 before approaching turn 17 and turn 18. That's one of the Red Bulls, I think. Could be Ruben Pedreño just ahead on track. Or it's Andres... Well, it can't be Andres Lopez because he's in the pit lane. But we'll see now. What can Chan do? He goes into first with a 14.770. Ishmael Fassi's invalidated, so he's heading back into the pits. Not the first run that Ishmael would have wanted. Cameron Downs, he's on a run. He's done a 50.034 in that first and second set to combine. So a couple of tenths off what Chan could do. Could still possibly be in the high 14s for Cameron. We'll see. As he comes out of turn 18 up towards the line, it'll be a 15.075, puts him into P2. Alves, he's on a lap time now. He's coming down in towards turn 17 and 18. We'll have to see what he can do. Missed the apex a little bit there, coming into 17, I think, from my view at least. Heads out of the final corner in the Aston Martin. Where can he go? Can he try and get through on Chan Akinci to take top? No, he can't, but he can go in between Chan and Cameron and put himself into P2 with a 14.9. We'll see what can Ruben Pedreño do. He's on his lap. He's going to set a 49.786 in the first set, a tenth over what Chan could do. So it could still be a 14.5, 14.4 on the cards, possibly, for Ruben Pedreño. And he's one of the drivers that did well in Q1 and 2. So he can risk to take an extra set of tyres into Q3. And then he can have a couple of new tyre runs. He's going to heads out the final corner. Let's see, what can Pedreño do? He goes into the pit lane, so won't be setting his lap. Yannick Schmidt, he's on a lap time. He set a 24.081 in the first sector. He's now coming through Aquaminarale to the end of the second sector. This should be a pretty decent start for Yannick Schmidt. It's a 49.871. That's very decent for Yannick Schmidt. He comes through in towards turn 4, well, out of turn 13 and 14, heading down in towards turn 17 and 18 very shortly. Obviously wanted to get himself into that top 5, I think, for Yannick in this session. That would be an aspirational goal. But I think anywhere in that top 10 he could do. I wouldn't be surprised if he was at the bottom. Wouldn't be surprised if he was at the top. But Yannick Schmidt now up towards the line. Where can he go? Into third with a 14.921. A few thousandths off what Nelson Alves could do. Jan Herday's on an 8 lap. Obviously, last week's race winner at Australia. Wanting to obviously try and take pole here. And I'm going to say he's going to take pole. That's my guess. But let us know in the chat still. Who do you think will take pole? I know Nelson's got lots of fans in here, so I presume there'll be many people saying I want Nelson to get pole, and probably a few people saying Nelson will get pole. But we won't know that for another 6.5 minutes. Because everyone else is still going to do their runs. I think, yeah, Jan's on a lap. We'll see what he can do at the end of this middle sector. Oh, invalidates so because he took a bit too much curve coming through Aquaminarale, a bit too much speed, and ruined his lap time. Ben Sabaconi, he's on a lap. He's got a 49.5 in that middle sector in first combine. This is looking for a great lap for Ben Sabaconi. Could this be a 14.5 or a 14.4? We'll have to see as he comes through the final corner. This is a really good lap for Ben Sabaconi as he comes up towards the line. Obviously on the new tyres, he does a 14.436, just 5 thousandths off what Ruben Pedreño did in the first session. Jan goes up to the line, it would have been a 14.5, but obviously invalidated, so he's going to not go again. He'll have to go back into the pits. And that's Ismail Fassi, 24.156 in the first sector. He now heads up in towards Piratella. He's got to get a pretty decent lap time on the board, of course. Obviously, one of the quickest drivers here, one of the favourites. I believe he bought a new wheel recently, and surprisingly, it's a Thrustmaster. Many drivers at this level normally have a Fanatec or a SimCube or is it a Moser or something like that. But no, Ishmael, one of the quickest drivers in the session, and he's running on a Thrustmaster T150, so props to him for that. Andres Lopez pops himself onto the provisional front row with a 14.768. Fassi goes purple, however, in that middle sector with a 49.7. We'll have to see what he can do now as he comes through into the final few corners. Can he get himself into that top 2 or even the top 5? That'd be decent. Tamas Gal has retired on track. He's retired yet. That's down at the exit of Piratella turn 10. So that's Tamas Gal going to provisionally be starting last. Fassi goes up into second with a 14.5. Jan Herday, he's on a lap time now. He's coming through. No, he's not on a lap time. He's on an in lap. We'll see what Ruben Pedreño can do. Currently sitting down in 10th. Should easily get at least 9th because Tamas Gal is out of the session without setting a lap time in this Q3 session. That's a big shame for Tamas. And I thought he'd been one of those in that top 3, top 4. So he's going to have a lot of work to do in the next part. Well, in the race at least. And we'll see what can Ruben Pedreño do. What can he produce in this session? It'll be a 23.9. I think one of the first drivers to go into the 23s in that first set. Pretty decent there. Goes purple. As he now heads up through in towards Piratella. And we'll see what he can do through here. Looks decent from Ruben so far. Taking a lot of speed through there. Keeping it in 6th. Back on the throttle nice and early. Heads down in towards turn 10. Then into towards Aquaminarale where we saw Jan invalidate last time out. But there we are. Ruben, perfect. Has a bit of a snap. But very minor, so it won't affect him at all. And he goes a 49.563 in the middle. That's matching what Sabaconi did in the middle sector and first sector combined. So this could be very close. And the battle for pole could be between Ruben and Bent Sabaconi. As heads down Ruben in towards turn 17 and 18 at Ravat. So what can he produce in these final couple of corners? Very nice there into 5th. Back on the power nice and early up towards the line. What can Ruben do? It'll be a 14. Will it be a 14.3? It will be a 14.3. A tenth quicker than Sabakonyi. Puts himself onto provisional pole, and that's going to be a time very difficult to beat for many drivers in the session. Obviously, big gap at the moment. First to 7th, about 6/10 of a second. First to 8th, nearly, well, 7/10, nearly a second between those. So lots of work in this final few runs. Well, his final run for many drivers on the board. Obviously, Jan needs to get a lap time on the board. Cameron wants to get himself at least into the 14s. I think 4th down, definitely to get a big improvement. Andres, Chan, Nelson, and Jan need to get some vast improvements in the session. But yeah, I'm still going to say Jan will get pole. I still have that hope in him that he can do it. But it's going to be very close, and I think it's more of a guess at this point. Of who will get pole. Normally, you go into a session, you think actually this person's been outstanding. He could get pole, but we've seen many drivers do well in this session and in Q1 and Q2. So yeah, it's hard to call, but I think Jan could do it. I think also, you got Ruben, Bent's also in a good chance there in the 0.3s and 0.4s. Chan, obviously not getting the best starter lap out, but he's one of the quickest here as well. So yeah, lots to come from many drivers here. Obviously Nelson, the great in Australia, but unfortunately had 15 seconds of penalties, so he dropped down to practically last. And I believe he was running in the top 5, if I'm correct. There we are, everyone, or most people heading out onto track to begin their 8 laps for their final runs of the session. And also tomorrow, I believe, we get the first proper reveal of the new F123 game. That will be coming out, I believe, mid-June, from what I've heard. But yeah, make sure to keep your eyes peeled tomorrow. Not sure what time to keep your eyes peeled for, but make sure you do, because on the EA Sports F1 Twitter, it does say May 1st or whatever. It's something about coming soon, May 1st, or keep or keep your eye out for May. So yeah, obviously we should get some sort of announcement tomorrow. Will probably be a reveal trailer of the game. Obviously we saw the reveal of the Breaking Point 2.0 type thing recently, but that's not what we want to see. We want to see the actual game, the thing we'll be playing, not the story mode. And I still have my thoughts about Breaking Point. I enjoy it, but making so much fuss about it, I think's not right, because it's an online multiplayer game. Shouldn't be having so much story focused on it. But enough of ranting about the F123 in EA. More about ranting about the end of this session. As Ben Savakonyi is about to begin his final lap of the session, he will be beginning the first final lap of the session, and we'll stick on board with him for now as he comes down in towards turns 2, 3, and 4. Obviously needs to get himself at least, I think, a 14.2, a 14.1, because Ruben will also be on a vast improvement as well, I think, in this final run now. Bent's coming through into the end of this first sector. What can he do? Can he improve by a lot in this sector? It'll be a bit of improvement. 66,000 up, so great first sector there from Bent. But he's got to keep it. He's got to stick it through this second and third sector. So he's got to be careful there not to think, he thinks, I'm up by 66,000. He can't just think, yeah, that's me getting a higher chance of pole. He's got to keep on it, because if he backs off, if he pushes too hard and has too much confidence into the corners, he's going to ruin it completely. But he comes through in towards Aquamarani. Great yet again from Bents on a flyer. It's a 44.9, up by nearly a tenth. So not enough yet to take Ruben Progenio's spot, but it's very close. He's within I think within 10 thousandths of taking it out that middle sector. As he now heads down in towards the final few corners, can Ben Sabikonyi try and take pole from Ruben Progenio? It'll be close, but it could definitely be a possibility as he comes out the final corner, up towards the line. This will be a really good lap, really good improvement for Bents. Can he take pole? No, he can't. He's up by 34 thousandths. He lost lots of time in that final sector. We'll go on board to someone else who's on lap. We'll go on board to Ian Halliday as he's coming through the final few corners. I believe there's some more cars also coming up to line. That's Cameron Dowds. He moves up to third place with a 14.4. Then we've got Yannick Schmidt. Where does he going to go? He goes and stays in 8th position, so he doesn't improve. Where can Ishmael Fassi go? Can he try and take pole? Yeah, no, he can't, but he can go into the front row. 3,000 behind him, Progenio. But what can how they do? He only goes 7th, so not a good lap time there. But Chanakinchi goes quickest with a 14.3. Where does Nelson go? Up to 4th, and now we've got to watch Ruben Progenio. He's down by 10th and a half. He's down by 97,000. So if he can get at least if he can get a 10th, just over a 10th in this final sector, it could still be a chance for Ruben, but he comes through now, down into the final few corners. He's got to get a good improvement. Andres Lopez improves to a 14.495, but can't get himself out of 7th place. but can Ruben put himself onto the front of the front row as he comes through into the final corner? I don't know if it's going to be improved or not. Is it? No, it's not. He stays second. So that is Chanakinchi on pole position in this session. Great lap there. Came out of nowhere in my eyes. And Ruben, about 5 thousandths off that. And then we had in third. That was Ismail Fassi. 8 thousandths off of Chanakinchi. That was really close. The top 7 separated by less than 2 tenths. The top 9 separated by 6 tenths. Not sure what happened with Yannick, but he did not improve at all. And I think he did a 14.6 in Q2. So very surprised to see him down in 9th. Tamash obviously didn't set a lap because he had an invalidation. And then I think he had an invalidation, then he binned it. And Jan didn't improve by much at all. That was very surprising. I thought he'd be at least on a 14.4, 14.3. But the top 3, 8 thousandths of a second. Obviously, Chanakinchi there taking pole position, followed by Ruben, Ishmael, Nelson, and Bence. That is the top 5. As we now get ready, though, 4 lights out for the session. But what a gap there. What a gap between those guys as we get ready to begin the Imola Grand Prix. Let's know in the chat, who do you think will take the win? Who do you think will come out on top? I'm going to say Chanakinchi. I think he can do it. We'll just have to see what happens. Anything can happen. We can have penalties, crashes, safety cars. Everything comes into play, especially around Imola. We've seen multiple people DNF already. I think we've seen, 2 or 3 incidents of people DNFing in qualifying alone. So the race, it's always a possibility as well. So we get ready in about 20 seconds. Obviously, everyone's now going to be setting up their car, getting all like the strategies sorted out, speaking to their engineers, all of that. That quick 30-second preparation before the race begins. Obviously, also wanted to sort out fuel, whether they want to overfuel, underfuel. But very shortly, the countdown will get to 0. We'll look at the grid and we'll call them off down towards turn 1. There we are. So the grid. Chanakinchi on pole from Ruben Progenio for round 3. We got 4 lights and the 5th light. And it's lights out for the Imola Grand Prix. Great start from the top 2. Which one's going to get it into turn 1, though? Because Ruben got a way better start than Chanakinchi. He's actually going to take the outside line, though. So that could compromise him into turn 1. We've also got Ben Sabakonyi trying to get through an Ishmael Fassi to try and take third into turn 2 at least. Do we see incidents? I don't think we do. That's one going off track. That's one of the Alfa Romeos. I think that might be Leo Lund going off track. He now drops down to the bottom. And Ishmael Fassi now under pressure from Bence, Cameron and Nelson, who's also trying to get through, and Cameron down as well. Cameron had a great start there in that session. We'll have a look at the position change on the board so we can see how that changes throughout the lap. But Nelson drops down 2 positions on that start. Jan drops down to Yannick on that first lap as well. And there we are. Leo Lund obviously had some incident down at turn 1 because he's dropped down and he's 10 seconds back off the field. We've also got a battle between Andre Molnar and Noel Carmen. But great start there from Chen. Obviously, Ruben got a better line. Well, got a better start. But just because that outside line, it really ruins it for you. And you can't really do much into turn 1. But looking further down, Yannick Schmidt also looking to get on Andres Lopez now for 7th position. Great start from Yannick. Already on the back of another driver after overtaking Jan. Then at turn 1, also we've got Tamas Gal, obviously not qualifying in Q3, so we haven't really seen what he's made of in qualifying, so we have to see what he can do in the track. Oh, and then he goes for an inside move on Jan Halliday, and he still tries to stick up the inside. That was a close one there, but Jan still keeps that position ahead of Tamas Gal. Chanakinchi takes the fastest snap because he's the first one to go across the line. And now we head down into turn 2. Can Tamas get through? I don't think he can. No, he can't. He's still a bit back, so we really can't send anything just yet, but we'll have to see what he can do in the next part of this session. It's now is a 10th between Yannick and Jan, so they're also looking to gain and try and possibly trade some positions. But Tamas still on the back there, nearly hitting Jan through those corners, just pushing him along. Can he get a move into toaster up the inside? I think he will go for it. He does go for it. Can he get it stick though on the exit because he's going to have a compromised exit? Jan still keeps ahead, so Tamas just can't get through. That also allows Duncan Hoffland to catch up now. He's within 2 tenths of Tamas Gal as they head into Piratella now, and the gap's just a couple of tenths between those guys. We've also got Richard Jacobs sitting on the back of Duncan Hoffland also. So this battle between Jan and Tamas is starting to lose a little bit of time here and there, and it's bringing more drivers up close and personal to this little battle here for 9th and 10th. But then we go through. Tamas, 2 tenths, 3 tenths back. Also Duncan Hoffland, his teammate, also catching, and could be a possibility for Duncan to try and get through on Tamas down into turn 1 as well. Because look at the time that Duncan's gaining down this part of the track now. He's within 1.6 tenths into the braking zone. Now he's going to get a great exit, try and get Tamas down in towards turn 2. Down at the Tamburello chicane, the gap's about 1.3 tenths. This is going to look perfect, but no. Tamas uses a bit more ERS than Duncan. We'll have a look at the tyres. There we are. Everyone's on the medium, hard apart from Leoland on the mediums as we head through into turn 1 now. Well, into turn 2. I keep getting mixed up with that one because you've got to remember turn 1's right at the start of the circuit, basically just after the pole position line. But we now head through in towards Tosa. Well, the Villeneuve chicane, then Tosa yet again, and Duncan looking to try and get through on his teammates. So Jan and Tamas had that battle. Tamas tried to put a bit of pressure on. He's put too much pressure on, and now Jan has kind of left him, but the gap's 7 tenths. So now he's under pressure from his teammate Duncan Hofland, who obviously didn't qualify in the top 10. Would definitely like to finish in the top 10, so he's got some work to do to get past Tamas, because we know Tamas is a very quick driver. He's always up there in terms of race pace, always up there in terms of qualifying pace. And you never know, because obviously we've got the real changes coming up in a few days' time. Some drivers might not be releasing their full beans. You know, they might not want to give everything away at the start, you know, at the start of this race or throughout this race, because there's still 5 days of practice left to go. And if you end up proving to someone you're really quick, then, you know, it's like people will be more expecting of what to do. They can look at strategies as well and think, actually, well, that strategy worked for that person, so we'll use it in challenges. And obviously, any challenges driver doesn't want to give any advantage to any of the other drivers. They want to keep everything secret. So we might also see drivers not doing the ultimate pit stops and the ultimate strategies just so they can keep their ideal strategy hidden going through. But now, Yannick Schmitz within 3 tenths of Andres Lopez as they come through towards turn 2, 3 and 4. Yannick having a decent start, qualified, I believe, in 8th, or no, he qualified in 8th. So obviously we'll now want to try and get through, and Andres get himself up into 7th. Nelson also having a pretty poor start, dropping a couple of positions. Benson and Cameron also gaining 2. So they're doing great. Obviously Alpine 4 and 5, but constructors does not matter at all here. So it doesn't really matter that they're both in the same car, because they won't help each other. It's every man for himself as we now head through in towards Aqua Minerale. Leo Lund takes the fastest lap, but he's on the medium, so that's expected with the 17.615. Obviously having some sort of incident down at turn 2, went off, and, well, obviously just had to pit. So I'm not sure if he hit the wall and got damaged, but now we got Mike Klein and Ion Tanais fighting down for 18th place at the rear of the field. We'll have to see if we can get a bit of a battle between these two. Obviously both of them about 1.6 seconds off Andre Molnar and the rest, so they need to not battle too hard, because if they do, they're going to lose more and more and more time. And realistically, you want to get yourself back into that DRS train, which obviously is on now, and you can see Mike literally riding the back of Ion as they come through. Out of the final corner. We would like to see more RHG drivers racing, but unfortunately we don't get that luck because they're not allowed. But Ruben Progenio also looking to get through, and Channa Kinchin out. This is for first. Well, provisional first, at least. We've still got, what, 27 laps to go of the race. Oh, big slide there from Chan coming out of turn 6. Doesn't harm him though, because Ruben just stays behind for now. 3.5 tenths between the two. Ishmael Fassi also just sitting into this little battle as well. Further down, Duncan Hofland getting even closer to Tamas Gal. They're going, well, they was going side by side up into Piratella, but I think Duncan holds off for now. Doesn't want to take too much of a risk 5 laps into the race. We'll have to see though what Duncan can do, because it seems he's a lot quicker than Tamas Gal, but he just can't find a place to get through. I think he nearly hit the back of his teammate there going through out of Aqua Minerale. The gap's 3 tenths, and you've got to be very careful here as well, because of all, you know, of everything the track is, if someone has a bit of a spin or something, there's little area to get out of the way in case, you know, in case they're in the line of sight of you on the racing line. And yeah, that can cause issues. So just say someone spins at Aqua Minerale, it's a very thin bit of track, so most likely you'll end up landing on the track. Whereas a track like Silverstone, you go off, you're going to end up going either into the wall or just landing on the grass or gravel. So it's a bit more harmful if someone else bins it on this track. And now, Tamas, though, has lost to DRS to Jan Halliday. So was his fight on that one too much? And also we got Jan Halliday gaining on Yannick Schmidt into turn 2. Didn't see that one coming, but they got very close. And now Jan could look for a move round up the inside in towards the Villeneuve chicane. They're going to go side by side. Can Jan stick it in? He's going to try and stick it in there, but Yannick gets a better line, defends well. And now Jan's going to have to go for the outside line. Go! He switchbacks, goes for the inside line into turn 8. And I thought he nearly took Yannick out there, because that camera angle looks like it looked lethal between those two. But now we head down yet again in towards Piratella, and Jan putting so much pressure on Yannick, but just can't get the move to be done. And you can see, prime example, Yannick and Jan and Tamas and Duncan, it's so difficult if you're quicker to get through, because the defence is so easy to defend around here. And also Ruben's lost lots of time to the back of Chan, so I'm not sure if he's made a mistake, but he's 8 tenths back, 9 tenths back now, and this could be good for Ishmael Fassi, because the gap's, yeah, it's just sit within 9 tenths. Ishmael could look to try and get through and take a cheeky P2 here, because the gap's now over a second. That's what Chan would have wanted. The gap's now 1.1. Has Ruben got DRS? I don't think he has. We'll have to see, though, in a second. No, he's not. So this gives a good opportunity for Ismail Fassi to get himself back onto the second spot as they head down to turn 2. Ishmael on the inside. Ruben just lets him through. Nothing Ruben can do to defend now. And with that DRS aid, it puts Ishmael back into the 1 second of Johnny Kitchen. Now we've got a battle down to turn 1. Turn 2 at least. That's Duncan and Tamashet again this time. Duncan getting himself into the top 10 ahead of Tamash Gal. Tamash obviously put a lot of pressure on Jan on that first lap and then has seemed to drop back since then and lost a bit of pace. So I'm not sure if he just wore his tyres a bit too much on that start there. But now we head through in towards Tosa. Tamash still obviously being able to sit within a couple of tenths of Duncan, but actually he's going to be could be looking to up a move. No, he's not though, because he's still a little bit too far back. Looking further afield, Jan now dropped a lot of tenths to Yannick. He's now 8 tenths back. It was less than a tenth a couple of laps ago. Yannick, obviously on the back of Andres and Nelson and Cameron and Vance, not up to anything, are they? They're just kind of sitting where they are, just letting the race unfold. But Ruben and Ishmael and Chan are in their own little battle, and now Ishmael's getting within 6 tenths of Chan. So could we see a possible move for the lead of the race, possibly in a few laps' time? Obviously, we've got 7 out of 32, so that is about 22 laps, I believe, to go. Ishmael Fassi goes quickest with a 17.416 there. Got some great straight line speed Ishmael has as he now heads down in towards turn 1. The gap's about 4 tenths, could be 3 tenths. We've had a spin. That is, I think Mike and Ian have had an incident down at Maratza 2, which they have. So most likely someone sent it up the inside and they've both ended up spinning due to that. So they're pretty much out of contention for any points this race. And so is Leo Lundy's 34 seconds back off of Ionut. So he's obviously had another mistake as well now, because he's about, nearly 50 seconds back off the field. But we head now through in towards turn on at Perotella. Ishmael Fassi still putting pressure under Chanakinchi. Ruben's dropped off a little bit. He's about 6 tenths back. We've also got Savakonya. He's sitting within 5 tenths of Ruben, so he's quite comfortable where he is. But yeah, not ideal for Mike and Iona, because they're now going to be they're not going to be fighting for any points at all. And I feel like it's a shame, because they've obviously had an incident. One of them's took the other out, obviously not on purpose, it's through racing terms. But, now they're completely out of it. And just because one made a mistake, they're both not going to be fighting for anything. So it's a big shame for them, really. And the chances are we might even see them coming to the pits just to retire, which is not what we like to see at all, of course. And there we are. Ionut gets a 3-second time penalty. So we'll have a little look down there, though, because that's really the only thing going on. We'll just have to see what happens and see if they came close to contact yet again. So you head down in towards turn 17 and 18. Ionut gets a DRS. And we'll see who gets a better run down to turn 1. Obviously, with the DRS, it should help Ionut, but depending on Mike's setup, it could help Mike. And there we are. Rishan Jacobs getting past Tamash Gal. That's down at Tosa, I believe. We'll go back to that because they've lost lots of time. Jan's lost time to... Oh, now Jan's going to lose time to Duncan. Duncan's going to go up the inside. Can Duncan get through on Jan? I think they're going to go side by side in towards Peretella. Duncan gets through. Jan backs off, so now Duncan into P9. Also, we've got Tamash Gal sitting on the back of Rishan Jacobs, and also Richard Sprogis sitting on the back of Tamash Gal. So he's also getting involved in this battle for 11th at the moment, and Rishan Jacobs gets a 3-second time penalty, so that's Rishan pretty much done and over in terms of trying to fight for points, because he's going to drop down all the way down to 16th position if he's, if he can't improve throughout this race. And Tamash there going to be trying to chase down Rishan because he knows he needs to get through Rishan because of Rishan's penalty. That's Noel Carmen going off track down at the exit of Variantelta, so he's made a mistake down there. Sprogis also looking to gain as well on Tamash. Will be nice to see him score some points. So obviously racing for FVR, not in Challengers unfortunately, because he's first of all too young and second of all not quick enough. But it's still nice to see he's able to keep up with some of these quick guys as well. But we now head down in towards turn 2. Rihar's got lots of straight line speed. He's going to go for an inside manoeuvre there. Oh, they nearly make contact. Rihar's nearly pushed onto the grass there, but gets through on Tamashkel and puts himself into P12. Great overtake there from Rihar's. Just got through, didn't worry about the risk, just went for it, and it worked off heavily. Now he's going to try and gain back onto Rishan. Rishan's outside the DRS to Jan, so now this is a possibility, if he can do, for Rihars to get through on Rishan, and then if the DRS worked, try and then get himself back into the 1 second gap of Jan and the others ahead, because obviously the top 10 in their train, and Rishan effectively starting to create his own train. But he's got to start to try and gain in this middle sector to get through. Jan also on that cusp of losing the 1 second to Duncan, so he's got to push a little bit now in this next part of the track. Oh, Nyan's gone off track. That's down at that's down at Aqua Minerale. He's gone off a bit, so he's obviously jumped the curb too much and took too much power. Jan gets a penalty. That's also Yannick with a penalty. 3 seconds for both of them. So now the penalties are all starting to fly out. And this puts Richard's in a great position. He's going to put him into 9th at the moment. Duncan will move up to 8th because of the penalty for Yannick. So yeah, great for some of these guys. Also great for Tamash and Noel because they'll jump a couple of positions as well. So also that's Jan pitted as Jan got an issue. He gets a 5 second as well. And Jan's out of the race. The person who could have took the championship, the one who won in Australia, is out here in Imola. But now Richard Sprogis looking for a move on Rishan Jacobs. He's gaining. Can't get through. Has to stick behind for now. And Rishan's lost lots of time because he's 2.2 seconds back off of Hoff. And that could also be the fact Jan was also within a second of Duncan. So now that puts, well, that'll drop Leo, not in 20th. So Leo won't finish last. And looking at these Alfa Romeos in 18th and 19th, pretty similar. And it flashes back to Baku today. IRLF one where Alfa Romeo had a bit of a bad race as well. But now we keep on board with Richards, trying to get through on Rishan. Also Nelson Alves looking at, well, he's now outside barely to Cameron Dades of the 1 second gap. Richard Sprogis gets a 3 second time, but now it's up to Taras Gale to try and get through because now he's got a good chance of getting 3 positions because of the, well, 2 positions at least because of the penalties. But it will be close indeed. He's going to head through, down towards turns 17 and 18. We'll go up to Ruben Progenio because he's starting to get a little bit on Ishmael Fassi. He's obviously for 2nd place. The gap's 3/10. Could be a possible move. He's gaining a lot down this straight. And is it enough? I don't think it will be. The gap's still going to be 2/10 by the time they get to turn 1 also. Ishmael gaining a lot on Chanakinchi. Can't get through. So this top 3 seeming to be the ones battling for the podiums, I think, this race. Ben's sitting back, but he just doesn't seem to have the pace to keep within the gap there. Or they're keeping within, you know, at some points 1 or 2 tenths. Ben's is just sitting around that 5/10 gap the whole time. So I'll have to see if Ben's can do something to try and, you know, stick as close as they are to each other. Nelson clearly at the 1 second gap now. He's 1.1. We've got Iona to Mike there fighting down at in towards the Villeneuve chicane, then at 5 and 6. And there we are, Ruben on 92% battery sold, using hardly any battery at all in this race so far. So battery management at the top for Ruben Progenio. We'll see what the battery's like for the other guys. Ishmael, he's on 41%, and then we got Chan on 57%. Noel Carmen gets a 3 second tyre penalty, so he's also now going to have a compromisation when it comes to trying to get points. So 20 laps to go. Cameron Dowd's pits. Oh, that's interesting. Mike Klein gets a penalty. And we've also got Tamash Gal, Noel Carmen also in the pits as well. Noel Carmen retires from the session. Cameron onto mediums. Is Tamash also onto mediums? I'm surely will be. When we see him change tyres, he's in the pit lane. Where does he go to? He goes onto new mediums, of course. So, pretty bog standard there. Pit strategy from Tamash Gal. Rishan Jacobs looking to gain on Richard Sprogis. The gap between those is 3/10. So Rishan will be looking to try and get back through, but with his penalty, going to struggle indeed to try and get points in this race. We're going to head through in towards Piratella. 4/10 between these two. Also, you've got Duncan Hoffman sitting within a 1.5 seconds nearly of Yannick Schmidt. This is for 7th place. We'll see if Duncan can get himself back into that 1 second gap of Yannick, though, because it would be nice to get himself a bit of DRS to try and pull away a bit more from Richard Sprogis. And also, Yannick's got some DRS and getting a lot closer to the back of Andres Lopez for 6th. Obviously, with the penalty, it doesn't really matter. And Ben Marples now gets a 3 second time penalty. So that's what? 6 drivers already with penalties. I think it was about 15 drives with penalties in Australia already by this point. So doing better than last week for sure. And Duncan Hoffman decides to pit. Does Yannick decide to pit? No, he's not. And obviously Andres doesn't. They're going to fight down towards turn 2. And many drivers staying out. So is this undercut going to work? Or is it going to really not work? Because they're pitting very early in my eyes. They're not even that... Wow. Yeah, it's going to be close between the end because they've got to take those tyres 20 laps, those mediums. So they will make the end, but it'll be very close to the end if You know, compared to some people who might pit in 5 or 6 laps time. Tamas Gal gets a 5-second penalty. He now decides to retire from the session, so he'll be out of the session. They will finish. Well, his DNF car will finish 18th, but he won't finish 18th at all because he won't be classified. So not good at all for Tamas. Obviously looking quite quick in Q1 and Q2. Couldn't set a lap in Q3 as he had an incident down towards Piratella. And from that, he kind of went downhill. He had a good run on Jan Halliday. Lost time, then got overtook by Duncan, then Rishan, then I believe it was Rihars, and then from that it just went even more downhill, so we kind of thought, you know what, there's no point. So he's retired in the pits. And also Chanakinche has got a 5-second time penalty, so that could ruin it now. For Akinche's win, obviously was in first, and now puts him under huge compromisation because of that penalty. So that now puts Ishmael Fassi technically net race lead when he comes out, if he comes out the pit lane ahead or even behind Chanakinche. And that now puts Ishmael and Ruben into the top 2. Nelson stays out, so does Rihards. Both of them staying out in the Aston Martins. Cameron Des goes quickest to the 16.7. Cameron also jumping Bent Sabakuni, so that's key for Cameron. We'll see. Can he try and gain on the back of Chanakinche? If so, this could be a possible P3 finish, a podium finish for Cameron Des. Obviously, pitted 2 laps earlier, has got warmer tyres. So we could be looking to get a move on Chan. No, he doesn't. He sticks back for now, so just stays behind. Not looking too eager at the moment to get through. But he's got more opportunities to do so down into turn 1 with the DRS. Bent, he's just trying to crip himself back into the 1 second, and I think he does, just barely. And then, yeah, this will be this little battle going here between Chan, Cameron and Bent until the others decide to join into the battle and pit. Ben gets another penalty. He's now on 6 seconds of penalties. That's after, what, 6 warnings? So that's a lot. Nelson pits. We have a battle for the lead. That is Ruben Pedreño getting through on Ishmael Fassi to take the lead of the race. Obviously, the net lead is still Chanakichi. He is pitted. And Nelson now will come out. Where will he come out? Because he's in the pits. Ooh, he's going to come out quite far behind, I think, compared to some of these guys, as you can see them on the mini-map at the bottom right. Yeah, so Nelson comes out behind the Alpines. Does he come out behind the Red Bulls? And the Red Bull, the McLaren, and the Williams? No, he comes out just ahead. But we'll most likely be able to take him by at least one of them because of the colder tyres. As we head now down in towards turns 5 and 6 of Villeneuve chicane, we'll see how much Andres gains on the field, because obviously, there we are, the gap's coming down to 4.5 tenths. It was 7 tenths, so obviously, you know, you can see the colder medium tyres a lot worse on track so far, but once they warm up, he'll be good to go again and push at whatever pace he wants to. I was going to say maximum pace, but you never know. He might not be wanting to push maximum. You might not want to take that much risk. As we head down in towards Variante Alta, Yannick Schmidt sitting in behind Andres Lopez. Lopez still trying to get Owls, can't do so. Evan Santamarina decides to pit. So we'll see where can he come out. Obviously, unfortunately qualified 16th place. After I think it's about 2 or 3 hundredths out of a top 15 finish in Q1. He's going to come out to 10th. He will come out, I think, 14th. Let's see, I'll run that with a 3-second time penalty again, so he's practically out of the race now. Not much you can do, but props on him for staying out and having a bit of track time. Fair play to him indeed for that. And Johan still, you know, he's 25 seconds back off of Ivan, and he's nearly, what, 26 seconds back off Mike. Leo Lundgren, oh, well. I called that at the right time, because now Leo has retired from the session. And now we've got Lopez under pressure from Yannick Schmidt. This is for 11th place. Ionut has a 3-second time penalty again, so he's even further out the race now. Richard Sprogis and Ben and Andre have all pitted. Ben gets a 5-second penalty for speed in the pit lane. We'll see where he comes out, if he's going to bother retiring, because he might do if he's got his penalty. No, he doesn't. He stays out. Well, stays in the session at least for now. Obviously, looking at Yannick, trying to gain a bit more. Andres Lopez can't do so. Andres got the got the speed down the main straight. Cameron Dowd looking to try and get back through on Sabaconio. I didn't notice that, but Sabaconio did get through. And the gap's now quite large between Chan and Bentz. But yeah, so now, I'm very surprised why Ishmael and Ruben are staying out so long. And that's someone off. That's Richard Sprogis off down at, where's that? That is down at exit of turn 4, exit of the Tamburello chicane. So he's now going to drop off to the back of the field, 7 seconds back off of Andre, who's in 14th. Cameron, 5 tenths behind Bentz. Don't think he's going to fight him too hard at all. There's no point because they could crush it. The fight too hard in this part of the race. And there we are. Ruben and Ishmael decide we'll pit now. About 3-4 laps. Some even Cameron 5 laps older than the others. So this should give them an advantage towards the end. They might come out a little bit further behind than they would like. But at the end of the race, they'll have a decent advantage because their tyre's been 3-4 laps newer. Richard decides to stay out still, so he could be looking for a strategy that involves using the softs maybe at the end, or could also just be staying it really out on his, or could just be going for some really good mediums at the end as well. There we are. Chan takes the lead of the race. Bent's net lead because of him not having a penalty. Cameron's net second, and then it's close between third and it's close between Chan and Ruben for third because of the penalty situation. I think it's just on the cusp of being in Chan's favour, and there we are. Richards decides to retire from the session in the pit lane, so that's him out of the race. Only 15 runners left to go. So Mike obviously was near the back at one point, down in 19th and 20th. Now sitting in 14th, and Neona also decides to retire from the session as well. Mike's all not pitting, and he's on the back of the guys who have just pitted. And also Nelson Alvarez gets a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. And we'll look at the penalties on the screen quickly. Duncan Hoffland gets a 3-second time penalty as well. There we are, penalties. So at the moment it's 3 for Rishan, 5 for Chan, 3 for Nelson, 3 for Yannick, 3 for Duncan, 14 for Ben Marples, then 3 for Andre and 3 for Mike. So the current lead of the race is Chan on track in terms of pitting, Rishan in terms of just in general, and then Bent in terms of penalties. So depending whichever way you see it, we've technically got 3 leaders. We've got 1 leader on track, 1 leader on pit stops, and then 1 leader on the penalty side. But at the moment, it would be nice to see Cameron get a P2. Started P6. Doing a bit of Dylan Warren's track, just working his way through the field and avoiding all contact necessary. And also, thanks everyone for the follows in the stream. We've had lots of followers today, so thank you all. It does mean a lot. And I hope you're enjoying the race so far. Sorry if I'm not as enthusiastic as normal, because I'll be honest, I'm really tired. I've had a busy day. For a Sunday, that's quite rare, but I've had a very busy Sunday. I woke up at 8 AM to watch the Formula 2. Did a bit of commentary on YouTube for it as well. So yeah, I've had a long day. So hence why I might not be as enthusiastic as normal. But obviously I'm still going to try and entertain as much as I can, because that's my job to do so. Ishmael Fassi looking to try and gain on Nelson Alves now for 6th position. Obviously, doesn't really need to worry because he's got the penalty advantage, but it would still be nice to finish ahead of him on track. And also, it would be nice for him to get ahead of Nelson, then try and close the gap on Ruben, Cameron, and Bent's ahead. Chan obviously leading by 2.6 seconds, so realistically, if he wants to win, he needs to get in this next 10 laps. He needs to get 2.5 seconds. So unless, there we are, Ishmael getting through Nelson, but unless Cameron and Bent's fight stupidly hard, I think it's pretty clear to say Chan will win the race. Chan will stay in that 5-second gap. Benson and Cameron fight hard, could get out the 5 seconds. Then also he's got to worry about Ruben, because Ruben might try and get through on both of them if they battle really hard. So yeah, many different things could happen, but you can't call out Chan yet. Sounds weird, but you can't, because you never know what happens in the next 11 laps of the Grand Prix. But now we'll move up to Ruben Pedronio. He's on the back of Cameron Dowd, looking to take provisional 3rd. There we are, Pedronio within 2/10 of Cameron Davis. Can he try and get through down to turn 1? He's got a couple of tenths to go, so he's got to try and get it. He's got more ERS, he's got more DRS. It's going to be close. Into turn 2. They're side by side into the braking zone of turn 2 very shortly. Who's going to get ahead? I think it will be Ruben. Yes, it does. Cameron has to back out for now. So Ruben up into that provisional 3rd. Cameron down to provisional 4th, but he could try and fight back in a few laps' time because he's sitting within a 10th and a half of Ruben as they go through in towards the Villeneuve chicane. Just 10 laps of this race remaining, so lots of work for Chan to do. Also, lots of work for Bence to do, because now Ruben's behind. Ruben's not going to mess around. He will be fighting Bence as hard as he can. Maybe follow through in towards turn 14. That's Mike Klein with a spin down at 6 at a toe stop. Also, we've got Lopez with a penalty as well. He's now on 3 seconds of penalties. So at the moment, looking good for Bence, Cameron, Ruben, Ishmael, and Ivan. Side by side. Ruben trying to get through on Bence Savaconi. Can he try and get through? I think he can. Went up the inside, then went around the outside and got through. So now Ruben Pedronio into the net lead of the race because Chanakinji has got a 3-second time penalty. And the top 3 is at the moment Ruben, Bence and Cameron. Ishmael Fassi also wants to try and get himself into this gap as well. Ben retired from the session in the pit lane, so that's his day done as well. So that now promotes Mike Klein up to 13th. Mike gets a 5-second penalty. Does he stay? Yes, he does stay out, I think. Yeah, I thought he was going to retire then. Every time I said someone's going to say it, they retire. He's going to head out of turn 18. Ruben within 1.9 seconds now, so he's gaining a lot on the back of Chan, but obviously wants to get through as soon as possible. Try and get him within a second. He's got 6, 7. He's got 8 laps to do so now, so more than enough time. But he's got to make sure he makes no mistakes. He's going to iron out every mistake he's made in the past. Make sure that doesn't happen again. Otherwise, it's going to be under more compromisation at that first place position. Obviously, at the moment, it does look like Chan will get his penalty, but you never know. There could have been an incident in the pit lane or something that caused him to get the penalty unfairly. To go through. Ishmael Fassi looking to try again on Cameron Days. Cameron outside the 1 second to Bence. So this is key now for Bence. Also Bence outside the 1 second to Ruben. Ruben putting some great pace on, looking to try and get back into 1 second of Chan. So we could see a battle for the lead on the final lap. Now can we see, can Ishmael Fassi get through on Cameron Days? I think he's going to look to. Cameron basically lets him move past. Nothing Cameron can do to defend at all. Now there we are. Ishmael Fassi into the provisional top 3 of the race. Obviously 7 laps to go. So now it's all to fight for Ishmael, Bence and Ruben. Vishan takes the fastest lap of the race to 16.1 onto soft tyres. So he's going to be sitting in 12th. He'll be sitting practically last behind Mike. Mike's 11-second worth of penalty, 35 seconds back. So it will take a lot for Vishan to end up behind him. Then we head through in towards Acqua Minerale with Ishmael Fassi, 1.2 seconds back off Sabaconi, so you've got to try and gain as soon as possible. Get back into that 1 second gap, because now Ruben Pedronio is also within a second, I think, nearly, of Chanakinchi. Will stay on board with Ruben to see if he's going to go for a move, or if he just sticks behind Chan. We'll see what his ideology is behind all this. Eric Schmidt gaining on Nelson Alves. This is for 6th position. And I think he gets through. Yes, he does. So now that is Yannick into 6th. Obviously, because Yannick and the 4 below have penalties, it's all just came back. So wherever they finish now, they will finish in the race anyway because of everyone else having that same amount of penalty. Looking further down, we've got Andres Lopez on the back of Duncan Hoffland. Obviously, Hoffland sitting currently in 8th position. At the moment, I think he will keep the top 10 because Ivan's 1.5 seconds behind Andre, so he'll jump into 10th. But then Andre is 9 seconds behind Andres, Duncan, and Nelson. So very difficult for Ivan to try and get through on these. So at the moment, anyone in the top 9 will be scoring points. Coming through. And we are Ishmael, starting to gain. Well, no, sorry, Ruben starting to gain on Chanakinch. The gap's 5/10. So this could be interesting coming to the end. Obviously, 6 laps to go. DRS on for Ruben. Can he try and get Chan down in towards turn 2? The gap's 4/10. It will shortly go to 3/10. But Ruben obviously not gaining the amount he would like to. Many drivers gaining a lot more than that. Down into turn 2. Gains about 3 or 4/10. Into the braking zone, 6 behind. So can't get through yet. Isn't going to push too much to get through. He's just going to sit behind for now. There's no point pushing too hard to get through. Otherwise, you're just going to risk more penalties and incidents. Just get through on the final opportunity when it's easy just to breeze past. There's no point making a fight out of it. As I head out to turn 7 up towards turn 9 at Piratella. It's 2.7 tenths, sorry. Yep, 4/10. This could be close in towards turn 1. Obviously now Bent's nearly outside the 1 second gap, so I think he's out of contention for this fight for first. But it's down to Ruben and Chan. What can they do as they head out to the final corner? Ruben and Chan themselves are on hardly any points. I think Chan's 10th in the championship, and Ruben's not even near that because Ruben I don't think has finished any races yet so far. But now, Ruben, is he going to go up the inside? No, he sticks back. So he's playing the safe game for now. Doesn't want to bother getting through on Chan. Would rather do that at a later date. 4 laps to go. So now the thing is, if Chan's not slowing down, it allows Bent to get back into it, and could also help him try and pressure onto the back of Ruben. But also Cameron, you can't fault him so far, finishing P4. You remember a lot of this grid now. You got Chan, Ruben, Bent, Ishmael, Nelson, and not Andres, and Duncan. You know, all these are Challengers drivers, and Cameron's not part of Challengers, and he's sticking up with these quite well. So you gotta say fair play to him. He's doing a great job. Yannick, I'd say he could be classed as a Challengers pace. I think he's very quick. He just isn't in Challengers this year. I think he's too young. I think Yannick's only 15 as well. That could also be another reason why. We head through in towards turn 17-19. Rishon gets another 3-second time penalty. That puts him on to 6 seconds. Now, this is ideal for Ruben to try and get through. He's using his ERS, he's using his DRS. He's going to fly past Chan this time. The gap's less than a 10. Around the outside into turn 1. He's going to have the inside-ish line in towards turn 2. There we are. Ruben takes the lead of the race. Now, Bent is actually 1.5 seconds back interval off of Chanakinchi. So he's going to be under pressure from Fassi for provisional second. We go through in towards turn 5 and 6 at the Villeneuve chicane. Can Ishmael try and get through? It will be down in towards the DRS section down at turn 1. That's his only real opportunity really to get through on Sabaconio. And we'll have to see how Sabaconio defends, because obviously he knows this is for second. He might defend these heavily, whereas we've seen some drivers in the past just move over and say, yep, go through. But Spence ain't gonna fight that. He ain't gonna want to let him through. He wants to fight. wants to get that second position. So we'll see what happens. The gap's 2.5 tenths going in towards Variante Alta. Obviously not going to make a move there, of course. Not close enough. Not going to make a move into turn 17 because it will give possibly Bentz the DRS. So the move will be down to turn 1. Now the DRS for Ishmael Fassi's got less DRS though than Ben Sabakoni, so that's not ideal. And actually Sabakoni is going to gain a little bit. There's not much gain at all there for Ishmael Fassi at all. I think he actually lost a little bit going through. He lost about 8 thousandths of a second. So that's really not ideal for Ishmael at all. And now it's questioning, when's he going to get, can he get through on Bentz? Because he's quicker in the corners. But being quicker on the corners around here doesn't mean much when you can't get past in the corners, even if you're 10 times quicker. So, yeah, this is going to be difficult for Ishmael, but he's still got 2 laps to go. So it's more than possible to still try and take that position, of course. And obviously Ivan Santamaria looking to finish in 10th position. So he's going to have a pretty decent race, 16th to 10th. And then everyone else has got penalties, so Cameron's got a nice wager really to those behind, because everyone behind Cameron for the next 6 cars have got penalties. And then obviously there's 8 seconds between Andre and Duncan, so then Cameron doesn't even have to worry about Ivan Santamaria, and Mike's way further out. So these top 5, we're going to at least get a top 5. We'll have to see as we come through. On to lap 31 of 32. With Ishmael Fassi trying to get through on Ben Sabakoni still. Can he try and push him this time? Because he's getting a lot closer this time. The gap's 2.5. 2 tenths, 1.5. Does he go for the move? No, he doesn't. He sticks behind. Yannick Schmidt getting through on Cameron Dowes. That's down to turn 2 as well. So now Cameron under pressure. Also Duncan Hoffland getting through Andres Lopez. All the action happening, all the overtakes happening now on the final couple of laps of the race. And look at Ishmael. He's right behind the back of Sabikoni going through in towards Tosa. He's not close enough to send a move there, but he's getting a lot closer. And he wants to get past as soon as possible. He's got 1.5 laps to do so. So not long at all now for Ishmael to try and get through. He's got to do it to the next available opportunity. He can't afford to sit behind, because you sit behind, you're not going to get past. Simple as that. So, yeah, more pressure needs applying from Ishmael. But the issue is if you apply too much pressure, you'll either overdo it and bin yourself, or overdo it and end up taking the rival out with you. And that's Duncan Hoffland. He's retired. He's binned it down at that's I think Piratella. We can see. Where's the car? Where's the corpse? Oh, it's there. It's back onto track. So I don't know if that was a collision maybe between a couple of drivers, or if it was just the fact he lost it there. But that's not what Duncan would have wanted. On the final lap of the race, he's lost it, and he's out of the session. So now, we'll have to see what Ishmael Fassi can do, because he's 2.5 tenths back. He needs to get Bentz down into turn 2. This is his only opportunity. He's gaining lots more this time. He's actually closer this time by a mile. Can Ishmael try and take through to get provisional P2? It's got to be close. They head down to turn 2. Then that's Ishmael nearly on the grass. Bentz is still going to try and hold it in though. Ishmael has to take the curb there. They go off, and that's Bentz after going off track and getting through. But Ishmael's then got the inside line down it towards the Villeneuve chicane. Who's going to take it? I think it might be Bentz, and Bentz does take it for now. So now Ishmael down in provisional 3rd. He's going to have to try and get into Toast if he wants to do anything. And can he make it work? No, he's going to have to go around the outside. And I don't think he'll keep it. And let's see, can he get it stick? Because no, Bentz nearly pushes him off. But Ishmael might still be able to keep it up towards Piratella. They're going to go side by side. Bentz has got the inside. Ishmael's got the worst one around the outside. And they're going to hold it. Could be a switchback for Ishmael. He's going to try and get it now through to turn 10. If Ishmael can get this, it's to be a perfect overtake. And he's got it. Ishmael Fassi into provisional P2. But he gets a penalty. He gets a penalty on there. That's ruined it all. And Bentz gets that provisional P2. So that's ruined it all. Ishmael with a perfect overtake into turn 11 at Acqua Minerale, but just couldn't make it work because he got that penalty for going a little bit wide. And now we go back to Ruben Progenio, who's coming through the final couple of corners. Finally, he can get a win. He took pole in Bahrain, couldn't get the win there. He's had an incident, but this time he took pole. Took second, sorry, in Imola, but he wins the Imola Grand Prix and finishes first. Great race there from Ruben. Then Chanakinchi comes on to take second on track, but he will drop behind. I think, yes, he will. He will drop behind Ben Sabakoni, and Ishmael Fassi also drops behind Chanakinchi. So now that pushes Ishmael off the podium and makes him finish in 4th. Cameron Dowes, Stella Drive finishes 5th, 5 tenths behind Ishmael. So a bit more pace from him could have got him into that top 4 or top 3. And then you have Yannick Schmidt finished in 6th, and Nelson Alves in 7th, Andres Lopez 8th, Andre Molnar 9th, and then Ivan Santamaria will finish 10th and take the final point home, which he does. Then Rishon Jacobs, I don't know what he's doing. Messing around down at turns 17 and 18. Don't know what he's trying to achieve there, because that was a failed 360.5, so wouldn't be proud of that one, Rishan. And Mike now coming through in towards Variante Outer as well to take the final position, which will be 12th, and nearly bins it, coming through for turn 14. So that's not the show that Mike would have wanted to show there. There we are, Fassy's at the session. Very angry with that one, because that was a stellar overtake. Absolutely amazing there from Ishmael, but yeah, took too much risk, got a little bit too wide, and then that ruined it completely for him. But Mike Klein comes home to take 12th. There we are. So that is the top 12. That's the final classification. We'll have a look in a second once we get onto the final screen, so we can see where everyone finished yet again. And Andre Monrant gets driver of the day. Thanks, Jim. Yep, very good race. Yeah, good for Cameron as well. But yep, thanks for the nice comment as well. And thanks for being in here to watch the race, of course. But there we are. Ruben Progenio wins by 6.3 seconds. Great race on Ruben. Started second, finished first. Then we have Ben Sabakonyi, moves up to second. Obviously been able to help, having some help because of the penalties from Chan and Ishmael. They finished third and fourth. Then Cameron Dowds, no penalties, finishes in fifth, followed by Yannick, Nelson, Andre, Ivan, who takes out the top 10. Then we have Rishan and Mike, who were the final two who didn't score points. And then Duncan Hoffland retired on the last lap, well, the second to last lap of the race. Big shame for him. Then we have Ben, Ionut, Richard, Leo, Tamash, and Noel, and Jan, who all retired from the race. Some in the pit lane, some on track. But decent race. Obviously, now going into challenges on Thursday. I should see many of these drivers, obviously, the top four. Ruben, Bench, Chan, and Ishmael all taking part in that race. So they should do a pretty decent job, especially for Ruben. He's done great. 6.3 seconds ahead of Bentz. So, yeah, really good. Obviously, unfortunately for Ruben in Australia, in challenges he finished, I think he finished last with a penalty as well. So obviously Ruben wants to try and fix that going into this weekend. Obviously Jan got his penalty, sixth in the championship in the actual Challengers series. So obviously having a DNF after a few laps here, that's not what he wants either. So he's going to have to try and think of some other things to do in terms of preparation and practice for the event. Obviously they've still got 5 days, so that's a lot of time to practice. Even if they're practicing every day, that's still 5 hours of practice. But yeah, thanks everyone yet again for joining us in the lobby. It's been a great race, and we'll be back next week. We'll look at the calendar quickly before we go. There we are. So we will be back. Yeah, we will be back next week for Silverstone on the 7th of May. But actually, I want to check something quickly. I want to see what time Miami Grand Prix is on, because if that's the case, we might end up overlapping. I don't want to miss Miami. So we'll have a little look at that quickly first. I don't think it will overlap, but we'll have to see. If it does. And, oh, it might. So we'll have to see with that one. It might overlap it a bit, so we might need to see if we can start half an hour early. But then we have Spa, the 5th round of the season. That's on the 14th of May. Then finally, we're rounding it off at Brazil for the final round. So we'll see you next week, everyone, for Silverstone. So have a great week, and we'll see you next time. So have a good one, and goodbye.